Hello everyone, welcome to my Resident Evil 4 Remake, professional difficulty, no damage, no new game plus items, no charms, worse through. I may be doing no merchant for the rest of this worse through, but that remains to be seen. And this is Chapter 8, and it begins with a stealth encounter. Originally, I thought the sequence was impossible to do stealthily because it would always escalate into combat at the end, but it turns out, through trial and error and through just trying something out to just get this stupid sequence done, I figured out a way to easily kill the red zealot, and it involves timing your sprint correctly to get past a bunch of enemies, so that the prompt for initiating the stealth kill on the red zealot doesn't disappear, and you can kill him instantly. And I know a lot of people have said that they've stabbed him like twice, and they've had to spam flash grenades in order to do it, but that's only because the game classes those as combat executions, and apparently the damage between stealth executions and combat executions is different, and I don't understand why that is the case. And even though I have found this method, it still doesn't change what this really stupid sequence is. It's like, not only does this guy have so much fucking life, but for some reason he is so resilient to flinch animations. Not even the shotgun can make him flinch. It can take almost 5 to 6 shotgun shells to make this guy flinch, yet he's just a regular ganado in red zealot garbs, wielding some staff that allows him to use fantasy garbage to summon plagas out of the enemies instantly, because that somehow makes fucking sense in a biological-based universe like Resident Evil. If this was the realm of consciousness, then fair enough, but this is taking place in the real world, and this is a remake of Resident Evil 4, which never embraces fantasy garbage, and it's never explained how this mechanism works. It's never explained what the whole significance of the crimson flames and the blue flames are, and how they elicit the effects they trigger within the plagas. None of that makes any fucking sense, but going back to the gameplay, you not only have an enemy type with physical characteristics that don't match his capabilities displayed in the gameplay, but there are so many fucking enemies, and I've actually discovered that if you get spotted during the sequence, you can actually see reinforcements spawning out of the blue from random parts of the map. That is so fucking broken! That is reinforcements handled improperly in a game like this. Why the fuck does this game even need a reinforcement system when its combat systems are some of the worst combat systems I have ever seen in a game by far? It doesn't trust the player with a competent combat system. It throws so many fucking enemies your way. The enemies barely flinch from your shots as it is, and they have so much fucking life. Why the fuck do you need reinforcements? And all you're doing is just invalidating all the stealth that you have done to try to get to this guy and kill him, or to actually thin out the numbers so that you can deal with them in the potential combat encounter. I don't even know if the method I did to kill him is the dev intended way. Like, did they intentionally make the sequence shit to force you to use that method? Like, who the fuck is going to discover that? As much as it is advantageous, I don't feel anything. It's hollow in the end. Because I've had to put hours upon hours into that sequence, and then through some weird strategy, because I wanted to just try anything to make this sequence fucking work, and then applying my knowledge of how the enemies detect you in the middle of stealth encounters, I just found that method. It makes no fucking sense why they would design it this way. Same with this entire sequence. This is the part of Chapter 8 that was misery. This was fucking awful, guys. This is a great example of this game being clinically confused, because for some reason, they decide to put in enemies in claustrophobic corridors, not to mention, they put enemies around certain corners that just make it impossible to deal with them in a way that feels normal. And also, this sequence forces the shotgun upon you like crazy. If you do not have enough shotgun shells for this sequence, you're gonna have a terrible time. And the game does not bother replenishing shotgun ammo for you, even though there are plenty of opportunities for it to do so. After Chapter 7, and before this whole moment, they had crates, they had enemies, but they barely gave me shotgun ammo. The loot you get from the crates and the enemies is completely random. And I know there is a skip for this sequence that involves a grenade, where you throw the grenade and it destroys a counterweight on the other side of a gate, allowing the gate to be opened, which allows you to skip the sun-moon switch rooms. But I didn't have a grenade, and either way, I was not going to avoid those sequences. because the average player will most likely not even realize that you can do this trick, or they will probably not have a grenade, but most likely they'll just craft grenades. But I didn't want to avoid the poor designs right here. Any opportunity to showcase how shit this entire game is designed, I'm not going to avoid it. I'm going to put this game in its place. That's why I'm going to do the review. That's why I'm doing this walkthrough. That's why I'm doing my poor design series. And believe me, guys, the things I had to do for this sequence to make it work, like this right here. So what I'm trying to do is get these enemies out of the way because they will follow you into the Sun-Moon chambers. But I could not for the life of me figure out the dev-intended way to handle these 4 enemies, as well as the rest of the enemies. I had to rely so much on holes and exploits to make the combat work. The developers had no fucking common sense with the way they placed the enemies in the sequence. Just, can somebody leave a comment and just explain to me what the hell they were expecting you to do with these 4 enemies and the enemies in the next chambers coming up? There's no way that grenade skip was actually intentional, right? Because, like, you have to throw the grenade at a particular angle in order to get it through the slits within the gateway. And also, if they're designing a challenge around no merchant, or they're designing a handgun/knife-only challenge, they clearly want you to go through the chambers, yet they designed the enemy placement so poorly to accommodate casual play, no merchant playthroughs, and handgun/knife-only playthroughs. And believe me, guys, my Poor Designs video series of this section will showcase just how bad this entire sequence is. It will elucidate upon the poor designs of this entire section. But I get rid of those 4 enemies by making sure I'm using leashing to my advantage. As soon as they run away, I shoot them in the leg to put them into the crouched animation that allows me to punish them from behind with the suplex. And the suplex on this game, it's really bad because the detection on the suplex is horrible. I have no idea how the director for Resident Evil 5, who helped design proper detection on melee attacks from behind, like for instance the neckbreaker or the throat slit, the detection on those moves is phenomenal. It works really well. As soon as you get behind the enemy, even when you're not facing them, I mean, you do have to slightly turn your character just a bit, but even though you're not even facing the enemy, you can still get the prompt to do the neckbreaker and the throat slit. And because you're behind the enemy, it will only give you those options. It will not force you to do straight animations or kick animations or anything like that. The detection is great. And then for some reason, in this shitmake, the detection on the suplex is horrendous. Trying to get behind an enemy after you floor them when you shoot them in the leg, not only do you have to deal with Leon's loose movement, but the detection is terrible. And even when you do get the prompt, Leon will just do the kick animation rather than the suplex animation. Like, how much does Leon have to stand behind the enemy in order for the prompt to appear for the suplex? And I have footage of this that I'm going to showcase in my Poor Design series for this shitmake of Resident Evil 4. But right now, guys, this corridor is terrible. You have this claustrophobic corridor, you have this corner right over here, and the enemies cannot go around the corner, but you have the plagas latching onto the ganado here. And the thing is that you can make them flinch if you hit them when they're running. And unlike the regular ganados, Placatep Arañas don't have any hesitation when they're sprinting at you. But it doesn't really mean much if it doesn't help in getting past the enemies, or you can't capitalize on the damage provided by the flinch animations. And also, as long as this Placatep Araña is alive, it will actually bring the enemies from this room over here over to you. And I don't want that to happen, because if I can kill the Placatep Araña before it latches on to the enemies in the other room, I can actually dispatch them because they're forced to be standing still at all times unless you go to a certain threshold, and I can kill them easily. But if that Placatep Araña brings the enemies over, then it's not going to work. And you do not want to be in any position where you are dealing with multiple enemies, because they can randomly choose to grab you, because that's a mechanic in this game. Whenever you're dealing with multiple enemies, there is a high possibility that one of the enemies will put you into a full Nelson to set you up to be attacked by other enemies. And they can spam this grab like crazy, and it just comes out of nowhere. You have no time to react. And they can do it at close range, they can do it at long range, and from what I've already demonstrated without shit, the detection is on the grabs even when you're crouching. It's fucking bullshit and badly designed. And that's another reason why I have to dispatch those enemies without them engaging with me, because the amount of times I've tried to run past them and they have grabbed me, or the amount of times I've tried to shoot enemies with the shotgun and I've gotten one enemy knocked over, but then another enemy chooses to grab me, and they're essentially putting me into that full Nelson so that the enemy I've knocked over can actually damage me, or with some other enemy. Like, the chances of being grabbed, or the chances of being fucked by a poor design are exceedingly high with that fucking sequence. Like I said, guys, if you have a grenade, just do it. Just throw the grenade on the other side of that gate to destroy the counterweight, and you will skip those rooms where you have to drop down, and you'll be able to get over to where that crossbow zealot was before starting this El Gigante sequence. And this sequence is very dumb. The El Gigante is gifted at actually throwing those projectiles at you, and I don't really understand how his tracking works, but you've got to make sure you take cover at the spots that I've taken cover at. And before you get over to this area right here, wait for him to start his attack and then immediately run inside so that he doesn't hit you when you're inside this part of the castle. And also, you have to hug the left-hand side because there's a guy that chooses to grab you. He's designed to grab you. It's part of a scripted animation. It's so fucking bullshit. Not only that, but then you have crossbow guys right over here. And I cannot begin to tell you guys the amount of times I've dropped down to the lower area and I've been shot during the roll animation by these crossbow girls. Yet again, this is another example of the developers making absolutely no sense with the way they designed the enemy placements. Like, let's just humor this idea real quick. So you go up, you trigger the El Gigante, you drop down when he actually starts his attack, you hide behind that cover, you then move for a bit, wait until he starts his attack again, and then what? Like, you have to hug the left-hand side, and then you have to hope you don't get hit by the crossbow girls. Like, are they expecting you to go all the way to the left? All the way to the left, and then circle around, and then use the third-person cover trick on these crossbow girls so that they don't shoot you because they hit you every fucking time you drop down. And then you have other zealots down there as well. Like, where is the fucking logic in this, guys? This is improper enemy placements at its finest. And I thought Resident Evil Village was the main perpetrator of improper enemy placements, but this is on a whole other level entirely, and it permeates so much of this game. Just somebody leave in the comment section below what they feel the dev intended way to handle this El Gigante sequence is. Because I just don't fucking see it at all. And my poor design series for Resident Evil 4 Remake will just further validate this claim easily. Like, objectively, this is a very flawed section. Objectively, this is a section that requires so much fucking technical knowledge that just is not possible for the average gamer. Oh, and also right here, if you don't have shotgun shells, you have to get very lucky right there. That torch guy, he can grab you a lot of the times because he's going to set you up for the other enemy that's behind you. If you don't have the shotgun, you have to run the gamut with him. I got very lucky right there. I mean, again, like, if this sequence is so forceful on shotgun usage, why do they not set up static placements of shotgun shells before this sequence? And I'm not going to waste time running all the way back to the water room area or to previous parts of Chapter 7 to restock on ammunition because the loot is completely random because this game's dynamic ammunition system is completely fucking drunk. And even if it's not shotgun shells, why do you not replenish crafting supplies? What good is gunpowder if I don't have small resources to contribute to my weapons? And large resources are for weapons I don't even have yet! Like, why do they introduce large resources if you can't even get the submachine gun or the sniper rifle normally from these chapters? You can only get a submachine gun from Chapter 10 and Chapter 13, and you can't even get the sniper rifle. Why did they give you the crafting recipes for those weapons if you can't even get them normally in these earlier chapters? It makes no fucking sense. I mean, there's zero common sense displayed with the way the enemies are placed in this environment, with the way the ammunition is placed in this environment. Like, it's all just a fucking shit show. You're just banging your head against the game, or you're just restarting this game all the fucking time so that you get the correct loot, because the developers were so incompetent to give you the right resources to handle sequences that are designed for those resources in mind. I don't understand. I don't fucking... Oh my god. My head is just spinning at the sheer stupidity of these developers with the way they designed this game. And to be honest, guys, I already had a feeling that this game would be very compromised because apparently the development of Resident Evil 4 Remake had problems. Like, originally this game was designed by M3, which originally handled Resident Evil 3 Remake, and then the developers of Resident Evil 2 Remake and Village decided to step in. And apparently the way they separated out the work is one team handled the village area, another team handled the castle area, and another team handled the island area. And yet somehow all three areas are equally as bad. This entire game is fucking awful. This entire game was just rushed out the door. There's no common sense displayed by the fucking developers with the way they place the enemies, with the way they design the sequences, with the way they place the ammunition in the environment, with the way they design Leon and the other characters and their interactions with the world. There's no fucking sense to the way the guns work on this game. The flinch animations feel almost non-existent and the gameplay is so fucking awkward. It's just a fucking mess, guys. It's even greater than a mess. Like, what's worse than a mess, guys? What's worse than a mess? That's exactly what this pre-alpha is. That's exactly what it is, guys. But with those cannon shots, this cues the end of Chapter 8. All we have to do now is reunite with Ashley. And I still find the whole scene where Leon reunites with Ashley very silly. It's not even, like, meaningful. It's not, like, heartbreaking or anything. It's just stupid. Like, Ashley is worried that she'll apparently hurt Leon because of the fact that she's able to be taken control of by Sadler through the hive mind, and it still doesn't make any sense how the Plaga is capable of a hive mind. But why the hell is Ashley expressing all this fear, all this distress towards the potential of hurting Leon? Yet, she's seen Leon handle how many Ganado at this point? Leon's handled dozens or like hundreds of Ganado at this point, and she's worried she'll hurt him? Are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck kind of justification is that to set up this supposedly meaningful conversation between the two that goes absolutely nowhere? That is a really poor way to justify the setup of this conversation that occurs prior to Chapter 9, and it's just so funny just hearing it. And if you want to hear my genuine reaction, just check out my blind playthrough, and you'll understand why I just don't understand what they were trying to achieve with this stupid scene. I have no idea who handled the exchange of dialogue between characters and the way their conversations are set up, but they did a really shit job with this game. There's almost no interaction in this game that feels meaningful or interesting or actually pays respect to the original version of Resident Evil 4. None of it feels human, honestly, guys. It doesn't feel like I'm watching real human beings having a conversation a lot of the times with this stupid game. But more will be said about this point in the later videos. Stay tuned for the future chapters. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.